Well, Nora, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk about your experience and breakthroughs. So, just to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you joined the Breakthrough Program?
Yeah, I am, I'll be 36 this month. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm single. When I started the program, I lived alone. I had just finished, well, I think I had just scheduled my sort of unexpected surgery that I was going to have. And I knew that I was going to be on disability and not working for about 8 weeks. And I also knew that I don't do very well just sitting and doing nothing. And so I was worried that if I did nothing or I didn't have a plan to do anything, um, it would be so much harder to go back to work. What I didn't know is what I was going to do. And so I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw just one of like Cheryl Ann's little clips, and I was watching it, and like nothing that she said, I love her, but nothing she said was like earth shattering. It just all made so much sense. And she presented it in a way that it's so relatable. And like I said, it's not like earth shattering stuff, but you're just like, why didn't I think of that before? Why didn't I think of, and I was like, this is what I want to do with my time. This is what I want to do while I am kind of laid up on my couch. So, there are obviously areas of my life that I wasn't thrilled about. And so I was like, yeah, there's a lot here and I could benefit from this.
Yeah, that's great. And then like more specifically, you mentioned like, gosh, there were things in your life that you're like, oh, I want to work on this. Can you share a little bit about what wasn't working at that time and what were some of your struggles heading into the program besides recovering from surgery?
Right. Well, like maybe the shorter answer would be like what was working. I just feel like everything, even the surgery, I had a cyst the size of a volleyball that was like growing on my pelvis, and I had no idea that it was there. I don't know how long it had been there, but even that, I was like, and this was my warped mind then. Like, how could you have this giant thing that you don't even know about? Like, took it global. Like, you were just so not aware. You have this lack of awareness about who you are and what's going on with you. So I was struggling there. Exercise and weight, diet. I knew that I have for years wanted to make changes there. And it was, the doctor said, this is a decent sized cyst. We're basically going to have to do a C-section, which, being a single woman and calling home and saying, Mom and Dad, I'm having a C-section. Luckily, my mom has a sense of humor. So, obviously they're like, what? And I explained it. And so my mom actually nicknamed my cyst Wilson because it was the size of a volleyball. So like from Castaway. But jumping back. So I knew that like abdominal surgery, the recovery is brutal. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to even walk how I wanted to, or as much as I wanted to. And so I knew that I would be struggling in that area. And then it sort of snowballs for me where, I'm laid up on the couch, apathy settles in, and I can't do anything, so I don't want to do anything. And then I'm disappointed in myself that I'm not doing anything. And I knew it would be a bad cycle. I like I said, I'm single and I have tried online dating. I think before the program, it's not really fair of me to say I was trying it. Because yes, I was like on a couple websites, but I wasn't happy being single. And at work, I was kind of frustrated wanting to implement certain programs. I'm a counselor at a school, and so I wanted to have some groups and do some suicide awareness, suicide prevention work. And I knew that when I came back from my disability, my leave of absence, I knew that we had a week of suicide prevention that I had gotten approved and was already going to happen. And so there was a lot of just paralysis by overanalysis with that, where I was like, there's so much to do here. I don't even know where I'm going to start. But I was at least excited about that piece. And family dynamics are just another issue for me. I'm the youngest of four, and I think I'm like perpetually 9 years old in my family, regardless of what I know, how much I know. It kind of falls on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. And so it was just another source of frustration and another reason that I was like, this program is really going to help me shine. It's going to give me a voice, and, I'll be more confident in what I say. So maybe people will take me more seriously.
Got it. Wow. So it sounds like you came into the program wanting to work on health, wanting to work on relationships, wanting to work on being, an even better worker at your school. So quite a variety. Okay, that's great.
That's why I said, like, the better question or the easier question to answer is like, what was going right? It's a shorter list.
Like, what is it on this list?
Right.
So, you talked about, Nora, like you had this time period with your surgery. And so that's really what prompted you to want to invest in the program. Did you ever question the program? And if so, what finally got you to enroll?
I will say I balked at the cost. I think that's another area where I struggle. And it's sort of unnecessary, I think, for me to get so stuck on it or get as stuck as I do. It's a lot of comparison. So I look at my siblings, they're two are partners in a law firm. One's a judge. They're all married. And I am a mental health counselor in a Catholic school. I'm not going to afford the things that they do. But I'm not living in a cardboard box. I'm not missing meals. If I want new fancy earrings, I go get them. It's just the abundance versus lack, and just the lack of gratitude. So I think hearing the cost, I thought, I don't know if I can do this. And again, my family dynamics, if you can come up with this money, then why are you asking us for help? Like, that shouldn't be how you spend your money. I told you, like, they're all in the legal field. It's very black and white. And my job is living in a world of gray. And, it's emotional, not necessarily logical 100% of the time, more heart than head. So I'm kind of the opposite of them in that way. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want them to even know that I was doing the program necessarily. But it was in talking to Courtney, and it's sad. It makes me a little sad that it took her to point it out to me. But like during my phone call with her, I would be talking about, like how I'm in this victim role and these things keep happening to me in this surgery. And just like you just did, like, well, like some things were going right, right. And she kind of pointed out to me how much energy she heard in my voice when I talked about the suicide prevention work that I wanted to do and mental health awareness at my school when I got back to school. And I will never forget. She said, "Do you hear how your voice just changed?" And I mean, it was like dead air. Like she was like, hello? I'm like, no, I'm still here. I can't believe it. Like, yeah, I did. It went from a lot of ums and ahs and I don't knows to this is my plan for this prevention week and we're doing it and it's going to be great. Like these activities are geared toward these high school kids. And I mean, she couldn't see me, but I knew that I even like sat up straighter and was like visibly more confident when I was talking about it. And when she pointed it out, she was like, that's what this program will tap into. So you already have it. You just need to figure out like how to open the door to it and when to access it.
I love it. That's a great story. That's a great story. And
She's great.
she is. And you know, Nora, two questions out of what you just shared. First is, how did you get your family on board? That's my first question. So I'll let you answer that one before I ask my second question.
Well, that's a loaded question, right? If they are on board. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they are. They're not against it. But I don't bring them in. I don't talk about, you know, these mindset shifts and say that it's from this program that I'm doing. And I have sent some links to podcasts to my sister. You know, she works full time. She has 2 kids under the age of 3. So there are things that I think, you know, she could benefit greatly. And she'll text me back and say like, that's spot on. And I have to stop myself every time from like telling her about all the work that I'm doing, just because I think it's twofold. One, I think I fear a little bit that accountability piece of how has this program changed you? Like, what are you doing still? And the second is I would almost rather, I don't know if I want to say be surprised by, but I would rather have my family kind of turn their heads like, what, whoa, like you're very different now. And I guess I wouldn't want to expect that.
Yeah.
And I think if I kind of clued them in or told them, you know, week by week what I was doing, it would be, I know that I would get their opinions, and it's not always 100% supportive.
Have they noticed any changes in you?
Yeah. One of the things that I sort of, in the very early weeks, you know, there's, I won't say an onslaught of work, but you got to get started. There's like a lot of reflecting and the videos that you watch, you know, it takes time. And I'm the sort of the caretaker in my family. I have 2 siblings who live, you know, within 5 miles of me here in Columbus. My sister has 2 kids and my brother has 3. And so at the drop of a hat, they're like, can you come and babysit? You know, my wife is, you know, working out. I want to run here. Can you watch the kids just real quick? Well, then, like, it would be like, oh, well, I actually finished my errand at the same time she was done working out. We're going to grab a bite. And I'm like, okay. So now, like, the 20 minutes that I said I would watch your kids now is like 2.5 hours. And I love my nieces and nephews. So it didn't really bother me in the moment. But when I stepped back, I was like, I'm just getting steamrolled. Like, and if I needed a ride to the airport, or, you know, I'm sick and I want somebody to fill a prescription or just pick up some medicine, you know, if I ask one of them, it's like, you know, I got to pick up this kid from daycare, or I got to get home and make dinner. And I'm like, I drop everything like so often. How do I get this back? And so I think it was that idea of just protecting my time, that they would call, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I can't. And it was difficult at first because, you know, I mean, and Cheryl Ann has talked about it, you know, it's like that that change in me is something that I'm uncomfortable with because it's new and it's changed for me, but they're uncomfortable with it because they just want to put me back in the box of, but no, we always could count on you, and you would do that. And it's not that, I'm cutting them off or I think they're awful people. They're my family. I love them. And I do still, step in, but not with the frequency. And I think that was one of the first things that they noticed.
Yeah.
And I've just been more vocal about, I don't want to do that. I have a plan of my own. When we're all on a family vacation, it's like, you know what, why don't you guys go to dinner? I'm going to stay home. And it's like a record screech because nobody ever does that. Like, we all go to dinner all together. I just said, you know what, I think I would rather just kind of relax around here and kind of get a break. Because in total, I have 8 nephews and nieces, all under the age of 10. So it's a lot. And, I think that sort of works to my advantage because then my siblings say, oh yeah, you're just used to being at home in a quiet house. We get it. Right. They make that assumption and I just let them run with it. And I'm like, yep, that's it. I mean, okay, yeah, we'll go with that. So.
Well, it sounds like, just the story you told, it's like you gain some courage, to really protect your time, maybe say no to people that can be hard to say no to, which is, your family members. So that's great. And another thing that you've mentioned a few times, Nora, that I would love to hear more about, you've talked a lot about mindsets. So can you talk about the impact that the mindset training had on you?
I mean, mammoth, I don't even know. Like, it's truly life-changing, I just default to victim mindset so quickly. I just, there's nothing I can do. I'm just a victim to my circumstances. I'm the youngest, so it's all going to fall to me to do this. What? No, like, that's not a thing. And, I'm looking at my siblings like, they have like all of the things and I have none. And it's just easy to kind of let yourself snowball with that. I mean, if you want to look for things that you don't have, go to town and you'll be able to make a list of 100 million things. But when you start to look at what you do have, and when you start to look for abundance in terms of like the generosity of others, it's not just money, it's not just maybe time, but there are so many ways that people are so giving and so generous. And so when I find myself starting to snowball or I guess like swirl around that drain of hopelessness and like wallow, I'm like, oh no, Cheryl Ann she would not go for this. I think one of the things that I remember, and it was not like a scheduled one-on-one, but she's wonderfully available, to the point that sometimes I was like, oh, she's gonna be so annoyed with me. I'm sending her a message on Facebook again or whatever. And she called and she was like, you have to stop right now. You cannot fall into this victim. Like, keep yourself in agency. Keep yourself in agency. And that's like, a mantra for me now. You have more choice than you think. Because there's so many times when, and she's got that great podcast on it, when I'm like, well, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I spent my previous job with a supervisor that just was not supportive, questioned everything I did, and really made me doubt my abilities as a counselor. And I remember that whole school year. I mean, it was maybe Halloween, and I was like, I'm not going to make it through this year. I don't want to go back. And I stayed in that job for so many reasons that are ridiculous now, where I was saying to myself, I don't have any choice. There's nothing I can do. I have to pay my rent. I have to do this. I have these obligations. And it's like, well, yeah, you do, but I could work in a million places. I mean, I could work in a hospital. I could start a private practice. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can do that I didn't believe in myself enough to actually do them. And so these shifts in mindset, they changed my perspective on life, my situation, my circumstances, but also just like my overall general mood is more positive. I just have a more positive outlook and like a greater belief in my ability to sort of incite change. I talked about that suicide prevention week that I was kind of focused on, and that school year ended and now we're in a new one. And I have some seniors who are on board and we're going to do a mental health awareness club here at school. When, there was some pushback about even doing some of that suicide prevention stuff. Like, can you talk about that in a Catholic school? Can you talk about it in a school setting? Mm-hmm. Are you going to make kids think about suicide who hadn't? And I'm like, that's not how it works. And I know mm-hmm. You have to trust me as the professional here. I know that that's not how it works and it won't happen like that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we have this club now that came out of nowhere that kids are really excited about.
Wow. That's amazing. It sounds like you face some resistance, but this courage that you've really strengthened help you.
Yeah. And it's confidence, it's courage, but it's confidence in, I had a coach one time who said, come on, he would call me kid. He would say, come on, kid, trust your stuff, kid. Yeah. And I spent, 2 years in that previous job with a supervisor that wasn't all that supportive, and I lost that. And the administration now, I was new, and so I think they were kind of treading lightly, like, we don't know what her stuff is. But it's very much now, like, I don't know, Nora says we should do this. Like, we're just going to, okay. Like, we'll bring in a speaker, okay. I mean, changing its school's entire schedule for a day, it's like, that's a big deal. So yeah, I mean, I love it. And there's no way I would have done it a year ago or, even 12 weeks ago, 14 weeks ago, or whatever it was before the program. I just wouldn't have.
Wow. And when you look back on the program, Nora, was there one thing that you look back and you're like, that was such a critical part of my success that you just talked about?
I think the reflective piece, I was really struggling with getting started, right? Just the idea of, I have to get my homework all typed out, right? And that was another where I was like, I'm a victim. I don't have the internet at my house. It's impossible for me to do this. And you guys are like, yeah, we're not going to let you make a roadblock out of nothing. So snap a picture of your chicken scratch and we'll figure it out. If we have questions, we'll call you and you can read it to us if you have to. And then I was like, oh, dang, they're just like, I'm going to have to do all this work. But, in doing the work, like the actual homework, I know that there were times when I fell short and I would get really down on myself and sort of spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror at what I didn't do. Or there was I think it was maybe week 7 or 8. I think it was week 8. Week 6 is a break. And I kind of fell off track because I like kicked my feet up and was like, oh, this is great. And I like lost all my routines. Then week 7, I like doubled down again. And then week 8, I went on I spent like 10, 12 days with family. And I really like, I would say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go here for dinner. I don't, and it was like, well, we're going, like, get dressed. So I would have my idea of what I want to do for the day. I want to start my day. We were up on Lake Erie. I want to get in my kayak and I just want to be on the water by myself. That's my place. That's my sanctuary. Water is just, I love it. And it was like, no, you can't. I'm like, what? And my mom just said, well, I need to be down there to watch you. I'm like, I'm 35 years old. Like, I know how to swim. I have a life jacket. Like, what do you mean that you have to be down there to watch me? And I don't know. I don't know what it was. I mean, I think it's sort of what I was saying before, the pressure of like, get back in this box. You have to stay who you were. I'm the perpetual 9-year-old. So it's like, no, you can't go to the lake by yourself. No. Like, what? Okay. And so it was like, you know what? It's not worth fighting all these little battles. I'll just do what they want to do, So it was like, okay, we'll just go sit at the pool. I'm 100% Irish. I just burn. I don't want to sit at a pool. I need to do something. If I'm going to be in the sun, it's going to be because I'm doing something, not because I'm just laying out. Like, I've never done that in my life. I don't lay out. I don't enjoy being at a pool. So I'm like, well, if my niece or nephew is there, I'll be in the water with them playing and whatever. But I got a horrible sunburn, and then that at least got me out of a couple trips to the pool. But yeah, I mean, it was, all the confidence that I had built, I just lost. And my schedule, my plan for the week, it just went out the window, and I let it go. And I came back to a weekly call with that. And, Cheryl Ann was like, okay, so, I mean, it happened. So, like, how are you feeling right now? And I was like, not good, because I just let everything go. I didn't make the decisions that I think would have made me happier. And she was like, okay, remember this feeling and don't do that again.
Yeah.
And I like, I almost feel like I wanted to punish myself. Like, no, there has to be something more. And so I know that I spend less time now, but I still do it. I still catch myself doing it, looking in the rearview mirror at, what I should have done differently or could have done differently. And she is just Cheryl Ann's very quick to say, that's a total waste of time and energy, because you can't go back and change any of it. If you need to, get out your journal, write a reflection and be done with it.
Yeah.
And I even said to her, like, is it bad to write? Because I'm like, spend more time putting energy into it. And she said, no, because you do that once. And then once you catch yourself in the rear view again, get that out and read it and move on. Yeah. It's over. It's done. Learn from it. You lose if you don't learn from it. So learn from it and act differently.
That's great. That's a great story. I'm going to ask 2 other questions for you, Nora. What would you say was your biggest breakthrough during the program?
My biggest, I mean, I mentioned before sort of that combination of all the mindset changes and how it just has changed my outlook on things. It's like seeing the world differently. There's so much possibility, there's so much opportunity, and I didn't see that before. so that's like maybe too broad of an answer. I mean, I could give you a million little things, like, I did a stand-up paddleboard class. I got a dog. I started, trying to expand my social circle, friends from work, friends from my neighborhood, just introducing myself to people, just being more outgoing. I would have never done that. When I talked for a minute before about online dating, how I was just sort of like, yeah, I had a profile, but that was it. And I have like opened up my sort of idea of what I'm looking for. Yeah. And it's not like, I'm not like, well, you have to have washboard abs and, tan. Like that was never like on my list. But I think I still had an idea of, the person that I wanted to be with. And Cheryl Ann challenged me was go on 100 bad dates. Yeah. Just bad. Find 100 bad dates. And, we were laughing, but I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm like cutting people off like way before I even get to know them for virtually no reason. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. A lot.
That's great. That's great. Those are all great examples. And my last question, Nora, for you is, describe to me what your life would look like if you hadn't done the program.
Abysmal. I don't know. I think I would just be, and I used the expression before, but swirling that drain of hopelessness. I think another big takeaway for me was understanding the momentum cycle and knowing, like, nobody, the roller coaster can't sustain just at the top of the hill. Like it's got to go down so it can come back up. And things like that would happen in my life where I would take the fall and I would be swinging, I'd be on the downside of the momentum and I would just let it wipe me out. Mm-hmm. Like, well, there's no point because it's never going to work. Mm-hmm. And I think knowing this is totally normal, so I'm just going to ride this wave out because it's not going to last forever. And if it's something, with a boyfriend, you know what, that's going to be fine, but I'm going to focus my attention on work. I'm going to focus my attention on, housework, other things, while that sort of just sits. Because I think another big thing for me is recognizing that action begets action. And so once you just do something, other things start happening. And I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but I'm like living proof. I just do more than I have in a long time. Yeah, I mean, I had bills that were stacked up, paid bills that I just had to file away from January, going all the way back to January when I started the program. So if I didn't do the program, there would be a bigger stack of them. I was like, spend the time, put it in, get these things put away. I talked about diet and exercise. I talked about the financial scarcity, but it's like I'm worth the investment of outsourcing meals. Uh-huh. So, I can have something like delivered that I can cook, and I just will eat healthier, and I almost feel like more productive instead of, coming home, putting a frozen meal in the microwave and like sitting in front of the TV and then just wanting to curl up and watch TV. It's like, that's not a way to live. Like, I just do more. I don't know.
That's great. Gosh. Well, Nora, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I think what I didn't realize would be so beneficial, so it was a phenomenal bonus for me, was the Facebook group and the support there. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned my family and how, I sometimes swim upstream. And I feel like somehow in this program, and it's maybe counterintuitive a little bit, because it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's work. You have to do work, but I found, like, in that Facebook group, a bunch of support, and in you and your team and everyone, just what I started to call like a soft place to fall. And people say, oh, your friends are the family that you choose, right? These are women that I have heard their voice on a weekly phone call, or I've seen things that they've posted in Facebook. But I have garnered more support and, been able to build myself back up or pick myself back up based on just getting in that group and interacting with the women in there. Being able to say, does anybody have any ideas? This is what I'm working on improving, or I'm trying to learn a new way to do this, right? And you get responses. And I say it's counterintuitive to say it's like a soft place to fall, because it's work. It's hard. But it's because of the women who are in it. It's because of, the women on your team. It's not as hard as it could be, I guess. Or it's not as hard as I initially maybe thought it might be. Because when you hit that stumbling block, or when I hit that stumbling block, I just went to the group and said, this was a challenge for me, and I'm looking for a way to overcome it.
Yeah.
And you just get almost immediate feedback.